Our next speaker is Chris Kourloufas. He is an aeronautical engineer serving in the Air Force. He holds a Master of Aeronautics and Astronautics and a Master of Engineering Research. He currently works within the Air and Space Power Centre and is looking for fresh perspectives to stoke curiosity and to provoke new thinking. And when I read that, it made my heart sing. It got me really excited. He is speaking about innovative environments for sustainable RAAF workforce, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Nikki. Good afternoon. I'd like to start with a quote from our Air Force strategy that's been bouncing around in my head ever since I read it. It made me wonder, how does a strategic headquarters create a vision that propels the organisation forward? How can we avoid the usual tendency to centralise and impose controls before we even know how we want to perform? And what action can we take today that nudges us toward a preferred future state? And how do I set us on this long journey and also deliver something before I'm posted out? These are the dilemmas faced every day by the proverbial staff officer within a strategic headquarters. Dealing with ambiguity and complexity is difficult and uncomfortable. But as my collaborator, Professor Jennifer Loy, would say, you need to get comfortable sitting in the ambiguity. The challenge that was put to me in early 2020 by Air Commodore Grant Pinder was, how should Logistics Branch champion additive manufacturing innovation into the future? What I'm talking about today is related to AM, but how we saw this was AM is just one of the many guises of disruption that Industry 4.0 brings. What I've come to understand is that it's possible to take a methodical, evidence-based approach to dealing with the ambiguity of the future. That's not to suggest that we can have all the answers. Rather, it guides decision-making in a more robust and comprehensive manner. We think about the future in our everyday lives and we build an intuitive approach to it. However, that can have holes and we can be caught out by scenarios that we just don't foresee. The ANU's Future Hub has a neat way to summarise this: evidence, implications, and action. And what I hope to emphasise today is that it's crucial for strategic staff to go beyond just foresighting and hype cycles and take action to materialise the future. So good staff work is more than the opinion of the staff officer. In the available time, the broadest collection of evidence is necessary. Evidence takes many forms, and our sources, in this case, were quite diverse and comprehensive in spite of the COVID-19 challenges. For instance, we have the privilege of high-quality technology foresighting from DST Group, CSIRO, NATO, and the US Department of Defense. We, of course, consulted air power, space power theory, doctrine and concepts of joint and future logistics. One publication, Prototype Warfare by Dr. Peter Layton, was extremely influential. But it doesn't end there. Experts were invited to educate and share their insights from academia, industry, DST Group, aviation safety, acquisition, the list goes on. Workshops were held with our junior workforce and Army and Navy to appreciate what they were doing with Industry 4.0 technologies and how they were leveraging additive manufacturing to make a difference. We took a temperature read of our culture and perceptions, and we leveraged the reviews that were being conducted on our workforce. The implications of this evidence was that the desired digital transformation was not going to materialise spontaneously. No matter how much bottom-up innovation was happening, it was not going to coalesce into meaningful strategic reform. Further, innovative ideas were not necessarily sustained by the environment that they existed within. What this meant for our people was that they were making personal sacrifices and investment for the sake of the organisation that weren't integrated into capability. And at worst, they weren't valued because they were truly innovative. It was also apparent that the traditional workforce structures locked out talent from being able to contribute to operational effects. What we realised was that we needed an environment that would generate and sustain innovators and allow them to create impact in the way we operate. So imagine an operational scenario in the near future where we are responding to a natural disaster in the Indo-Pacific. We have a network of 3D designers in the country ready to take on jobs that they're trained and accredited to handle. They're sent 3D scans from the operational area and tasking to design or adapt products that would be printed, for example, on the LHD that's en route, or printed on a neighbouring island nation's infrastructure, or by a deployable printer in the field. And our air-minded logisticians will ensure that the parts get to the right place at the right time. In this kind of scenario, the Air Force would be operating like a Formula One team. They'd be travelling, designing, testing, manufacturing, operating and iterating in high-performance, high-risk environments. For this future scenario, as well as the others that we imagined during our journey, it was clear that some intervention by the strategic headquarters was necessary. It was clear that our workforce model was not producing Industry 4.0 compatible people, capability and mindset. And we needed new ways to professionalise our workforce and pull through their innovative ideas for operational impact. The action we have taken today works to create the environment where such a scenario will be possible. And rather than waiting for the future to come, we're pushing hard to experiment with and trial with what is doable today. As a result, we continue to learn and refine the path ahead. The pace of change in AM technology challenges our long-held assumption that rank and seniority equates to competence. One response to this is the idea of a virtual trade. Virtual tradespeople would be accredited for their competence in AM and developed to make a contribution to an operational scenario, no matter what category or employment category they come from. It's currently a work in process, and you'll hear more about this from Alice Payton in the next talk. Logistics Branch is also collaborating with Deakin University, Jericho Disruptive Innovation and the Creative Element to develop a professional development program that is fit for purpose for Air Force's AM needs. The first cohort will be taken through soon. Air Force Headquarters is also committed to top-down reform to support the prototype warfare vision. The enterprise reform task, Smart Manufacture, intends to understand the level of performance we would need from our organic manufacturing capabilities and explore smart ways to partner with industry and academia. This will commence in the coming weeks. Air Force is collaborating with the other services and groups to come up with the best strategy for digital and physical infrastructure. So far, it's clear that a one-size-fits-all approach is not appropriate. Specific collaborations include a joint CASG Air Force project called CASG-NX, which you'll hear about this afternoon from Mike Moroney and Miles Clark. And the AM operationalisation strategy led by Joint Logistics Command. These two initiatives will lead the progressive digital transformation of defence in 2022 and beyond. Ultimately, there is huge potential when it comes to AM, and the difficulty is deciding what we should do from what we could do. To not act would be to leave opportunity on the table and let our people down. This is difficult when we are working within very structured organisations like Defence. We tend to limit ourselves to the way the organisation is designed today, which is for the past. Industry 4.0 is disruptive because it doesn't respect the boundaries we have in place. These technologies won't fit neatly, and trying to make them fit will see us diminish the value they can bring to us. Hopefully you'll walk away feeling a little more inspired than if I just told you we're putting a printer in every workshop or replacing a machine part with a printed part. I've seen that by sharing our future vision with our aviators, not only sparks more magnificent ideas, but it inspires them to take action as well. You see, these actions toward a preferred future are a catalyst for more change by our people. Our job is to keep nurturing the innovation environment so that these ideas can thrive and create impact. By better connecting our people's diverse talents with the operational need, we can enhance and augment our current capabilities for greater operational effect. To close, ambiguity will make us uncomfortable. Get used to it. What helps is taking a methodical, evidence-based approach with expert partners who probably come from outside of defence. Taking action by nurturing the environment where innovation can thrive is what our smart, committed and innovative workforce deserve. And I'd like to take the opportunity to acknowledge the professionalism, passion and dedication of those I've listed above. I thank the Deakin team, DG Log, the current and the previous, and the Log Branch staff, and my other Defence collaborators for their support and valuable input. I'll now take questions.
So the first question we have is from Barack Finney, who I know. With the increase in experienced junior members across the workforce, commissioned and enlisted, many of them with multiple degrees at the ACW and flying officer level, what are we putting in place to educate and empower senior ranks and career military people to avoid thinking rank first rather than ideas and education first? Ooh, tricky question. You're in the hot seat.
Yeah, I'll refer back to my experience when we flipped over the regulations from the TAR regs to DASA. So I'm an engineer, sorry, got to talk about regs. But one day, we woke up one morning and suddenly all the regulations were changed. And, what that meant was the people who were in the thick of it trying to understand those regs were the ones who were building the expertise really quickly because they were on the ground trying to make it work. And what I recognised was there is this immediate inversion of expertise where we built, previously we'd trained and educated our senior leaders and built them up, and they could fall back on experience and knowledge, and then overnight it switched. So, and then that meant the expertise was in the junior people, and the leaders that got that were the ones who were more effective. And I think that's what we see in with these technologies. It's an inversion of expertise where we just can't rely on experience as our default. And listening, I think, is the first option. And I don't know how to teach that. I'm guilty of not listening to and talking lots. But I think that's the first. I think that's really what comes down to the term of intellectual humility and being able to stop and say that I just don't know.
Following on from that is another question that's similar. What opportunities will open for the aviation technician workforce within the Space Command or space environment, and if there will be any interest in the technician's insight towards future developments?
Like I explained at the start, AM is just a technology or a field, and the idea with the virtual trade, for example, it's a concept, it's an idea, and we're developing that, but that's why it was in the square brackets, I suppose. It's hopefully interchangeable. And the point of it is that it moves faster than our musterings and our specs can move. So that, and I don't want to steal Alice's thunder, but the idea is that we build flexibility in the DNA of our workforce, that we can respond to these emerged or emerging skill sets. So that's the vision, and I don't want to take anything away from what Alice will tell you next.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, there's another question. It disappeared and now it's come back. Is there appetite for logisticians to be integrated with the industry to better understand best practice and bolster innovation with defence?
I think there is, and of course, the total workforce model will facilitate that. And I think what we're relying on is a very case-by-case, chain of command approach, and perhaps one-offs working with the manners and the career managers. So I think, yeah, we need to get better at this. And I don't know the answer. I think there is an appetite, and our senior leaders are certainly, from what I've experienced, are open to it. But I think we could also start by bringing industry and academia more on the inside of what we do and find ways to engage. I think it's not just go find a job in industry as a uniform person. I think thinking creatively about how we can engage is something we can do on at least within our own control as well.
This is an interesting question that follows on from that, and this will be our last question, unfortunately. When the majority of jobs for engineers in the Air Force barely use STEM skills, and most of the more interesting design roles are done by contractors, what is being done to bring back some of the ability to grow people in these roles instead of relying on our personnel to increase their own skills through training, often in their own time, rather than on the job experience?
All right, not controversial at all.
Yeah.
I'll try not to...
You're in the hot seat.
Yeah, well, hey, and speaking from my own perspective, I think there's an element of investment in yourself. I think as engineers, as scientists, when we're curious, I'd say, and following our curiosity is part of why we do what we do. And I would always encourage people to be doing that. So there's an element of, following your own interests, but and learning. On the side of what the organisation is expecting and needing from us, I think it does start with how we view the value proposition of engineers and technicians, and that's a conversation that we need to keep having. And I know previously, reading the doctrine, we've subordinated engineering to maintenance. So we have engineers because we do maintenance. And what I know is that engineering is more than that. And I think we need to have a refreshed idea about what engineering in the Air Force and the military is. And then we can begin to talk about what value that brings to the organisation. And I think that's where we start to value then the investment in people and the investment people are making on their own time.
Thank you very much. That was a wonderful presentation, and you did really well with the hard questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.